Hi there. It's December the 10th, and we are beginning a new book today. This is the third in the series of the 12 prophets that come in what the Hebrew or the Aramaic calls a Tre'asar, the 12, starting with Hosea going through to Malachi. And so today we start the book of Amos, Amos in Hebrew. Amos is a son of Petuel, and he comes from Judah. He comes from the village of Teqoa. He's actually a shepherd from Teqoa. And Teqoa is situated about 5 miles south of Bethlehem, and it's just in the shadow of what is today the ancient fortress that Herod built at Herodion. But the word that Amos brings is mainly directed, although there are some other oracles, it's mainly directed to the northern kingdom of Israel and to the retribution that's going to come. Amos is described as prophesying in the days of Uzziah, of Judah, and of Jeroboam of Israel. So this is the time of the division of the kingdoms. First thing that Amos says is that God speaks from Zion, and as he speaks from Zion, he withers Carmel. Now, Zion is obviously Jerusalem, but Carmel is in the northern kingdom. Carmel is in Israel. And so God is still seen as the God of Israel for Amos. Even though the kingdoms are divided, the Lord is still the Lord of Israel. But he comes to his approach to Israel through various oracles, because the nations are in trouble with God. First of all, he starts with Damascus, and King Hazael is going to be consumed. He's going to be defeated because of his oppression of Israel, his oppression of Judah. Gaza is going to be consumed because they committed treachery against Judah and against Israel. They'll be burned up. Edom, who were the ancient opponents of Israel, descended from Esau, they are going to be paid back for their attack on the people of God. And Ammon also is going to be paid back because of their attack on Gilead, which is the Transjordan part of the people of Israel, the area east of the Jordan. And they're going to be avenged. God is going to be avenged on them for their attacks on Gilead, on the Jews in Gilead. But it isn't just the foreign powers that are in trouble. It's Judah also who is under judgment because they've forgotten the Lord. They've forsaken the Lord. They are going to feel the wrath of God on Jerusalem. But it's Israel who sort of ends up with the focus here. And the focus of Israel is they are worthy of retribution because they have oppressed the poor. They have given their children for cult prostitution. There's a suggestion here maybe of trafficking, that the daughters are being taken for cult prostitution, or their sons also being taken for cult prostitution. There's terrible drunkenness. And all this, says God, is happening in the place that he cleared out of all the original peoples, specifically the Amorites. God said, I cleared this out so that I could give it to you, and this is how you've paid me back. And therefore the ground is going to shift underneath you. The rug, he says, is going to be pulled out from under your feet, Israel, and you are going to find yourself in trouble because you have pursued the wrong things, because you've gone the wrong way, because you've forsaken the Lord. And the Lord says, I am the one. This is in chapter 3 now. In Amos chapter 3, we hear that the Lord is the one who has delivered the people of Israel from Egypt. He's brought them out. He chose to be with them. This is the people he chose. And therefore, they're in his sights. They're not out of his sight. They can't hide from him. And then there's a process of saying, when you see things happening, isn't it because there's some reason? Isn't there some cause for things to happen? It's a bit like Amos is saying there's no smoke without fire, and he lists a number of things which are evidence of the way that Israel has behaved and therefore deserves the retribution. Not only that, but God has revealed this to the prophets. Amos says God does nothing without revealing it to his servants, the prophets, and therefore Israel is without excuse before the Lord. They couldn't say, we didn't know about this, because it's obvious from their behavior and the things that are happening. And God has spoken through the prophets to warn Israel of what is coming. And the other nations around see the chaos that is in Samaria. Samaria is the capital city of Israel, of the northern kingdom, and they see the chaos, and they see that it is going to lead to Samaria's fall. Israel is going to fall. And there will be great destruction. There will be destruction of Samaria. However, God says towards the end of chapter 3, God says that Israel will escape like a shepherd rescuing just a few pieces of bone and the tip of an ear of a sheep from a lion. So Israel is just going to be left a remnant. There's just going to be a small amount of it left. And the reason for this, the focus of the Lord's anger, the focus of the Lord's displeasure with Israel is the idol that has been set up at Bethel, at the place where Jacob first met God, where God wrestled with Israel. It's there that Jeroboam the first set up this terrible golden calf and called it the God of Israel, so that the people didn't go and worship in Jerusalem. And this is what is going to be the focus of God's anger and of the destruction, as well as the palaces of Samaria. Amos is clear here that God reveals to the prophets what is in his heart. God doesn't just come along and smite. He doesn't strike out. He actually gives his people warning. He's given them fair warning, he says. There's evidence around. And if only Israel would have turned around, then the Lord would have received her. And the prophets are revealed, the words of God. The prophets are pointing to the fact that God is a God who is always open for homecoming. We need to be constantly listening to what God is saying, because God is a speaking God. If we turn our backs on him and ignore him, then we will just fall into the consequences of our own actions. But it's wonderful that God is a God who speaks. He's more willing to speak than we are to listen. He always reveals things to the people who are listening, to those who will speak on his behalf, to the prophets. Have a very good December the 10th.